Wow, here we go.
Here we go.
Mrs. Ex-President.
Yeah.
And of course, Angie, I just wanted a chance to catch up with you because obviously we've spent a lot of time here talking to Ricky. And I think it's all good to hear from Ricky and all his perspective and all, because people call him the silver tongue for a reason, because he can convince anybody that he's right. Even if you're completely and absolutely know you're right, he'll convince you you're wrong.
I've always said he could sell sand to the Arabs.
Well, he could probably sell ice to the Eskimos and then sell them a refrigerator to put it in, you know what I'm saying? So, it's very interesting. But, you're the person that's kind of been on this, not so much the sidelines, you've been involved in a lot of stuff, but, there must have been times where you really felt sorry for Ricky and, just with what people have said and the way that it all goes.
Yeah, it is hard. As a mum, you defend your people, and it's not any different with him, but love him or hate him, he's Speedway mad. That's his blood. It runs in his veins. He's done it for, most of his life. As you've talked to him today, I've listened to his interviews, and it's we, meaning Speedway New Zealand, meaning the sport. It's not I. He's about the sport. It is his life, and it's become our family's life as well. But he's always been what he can give to the sport, or how to help the sport and what have you. And it hasn't been easy being the wife or First Lady of Speedway New Zealand, or a mum of kids that race and all that sort of stuff. It is hard. In the early days, I let it get to me and it eats you alive.
I was actually going to say, like, when you got into a relationship with Ricky, were you associated with Speedway at all?
Not really, no. I had hung around with Nigel Sturgeon, sidecar guys, Cookie, and those sorts of guys, and Nelson a little bit, but just associates rather than anything. So you're a Nelson? So, I'm a Nelson
born
girl.
and bred?
No, born in Christchurch.
Oh, yeah.
And moved to Nelson when I was 7, and then obviously moved here in 2015. So.
Yeah. And so you get involved with Ricky, and like you said, I would imagine it would have been pretty hard, the dedication that he puts into the sport. You would have thought at times, I bet you, that was the same dedication to the family?
Yeah, yes and no, because looking at it from a girl's point of view, I guess, someone that can be that dedicated to a sport or anything shows their dedication and their drive to better. He's always been about bettering it. He was on the board. So obviously you touched on the children earlier, the younger two, Ricky's stepchildren. They call him Dad. They carry his last name, all the rest of it. But he put that same dedication into helping me bring those kids up from a young age. So that's really admirable to have that. And as much as sometimes I'm like, can we just go away without the race car? Is there a holiday that doesn't involve the race car trailer on the back? All that sort of stuff.
The answer's no.
No.
But anyway, carry on.
But at the beginning, you think that, but over time, it is our family.
Now you go away going, why don't I have the bloody race car?
Exactly. Now I've brought my own race car because all these years of putting all this money into the racing, and I get to watch everyone else race. So we're in a position to be able to get me a race car. So I get to go racing with the kids and have Ricky as my crew chief for a wee bit. So it will be good. But yeah, it is the old saying: a family that races together stays together. So.
The thing is, though, like you have dedicated so much, both of you have dedicated so much of your time to the sport, and now you're in a position where you don't need to dedicate any time to the sport. Yet, what do? You go out and buy a bloody race car, and
because we don't know any different, Jason.
Not just not you, but your daughter's got a race car, your daughter's partner's got a race, and it's just what's wrong with you guys?
Good question.
Especially after the way that the sport has treated you guys at times.
Yeah. To be honest, Jace, a lot of people would have gone F the sport and turned their back and walked away. And a lot of people do. And a lot of people will moving forward. But it's not about the haters. You've got to carry on. Karma will get them people. You've just got to have faith that, whatever happens in life happens for a reason. If it sucks shit at the time, something good's going to come out of it. And it brought us closer together as a family. Yes, it did eat me alive. Probably more for the personal side of things, the attacks on him, the kids.
You're sitting there and you're watching your husband, you know what people are saying, you know that 90% of it, 99% of it's not true.
Yeah.
They're all hating on him. You as a partner, how did you deal with it, and what did you do for him to be able to perhaps shield him from a lot of it?
A distraction. I've always been, my dad always taught me to see the positives and the negatives. So all those things that those people say and do, 99.9% of that is jealousy. They're jealous that they're not as good at Speedway as what he is, or they don't have the time or the money or all that sort of stuff. That it's jealousy. And they want to be that person, or they want to. You've touched on a lot today. Every time someone's up here, the haters want to knock them off their perch. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter whether you're Ricky Boulton or Donald Trump or Jason Guttridge. Those people will do that to you. They'll do it to the next person. That's just what they are. But they're all just people that are just whinging in the background. They're not. We don't care. We don't care. That makes you stronger as a person. You know, the old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And those people bettered us and made us thicker skin to deal with the next people that are going to be like that. Because unfortunately in our nation, there's so many kids go to school, they get bullied.
The downside to making you thick
skinned. Is that all bullies too?
The downside of making you thick skinned though is that the genuine people are harder to get in because you're so bombarded by these people that continue to I know exactly what you're talking about here. So
your circle becomes very small, Jace, because anybody trying to get in can't get in because you're just going to be like that last guy. Yeah.
I have no friends. I don't care.
Yeah. No, our friends are our kids. Yeah. And now our granddaughter, because they won't shit on us. And that's it. And we're a tight knit family. And we've built what we've got here today. Because of our family and because of those haters. They give us the drive to just do better and to keep going back and not let it get to us and continue on. And Speedway New Zealand's I like to think in a better place for that. Ricky handed it over in a pretty good state, and Beachlands was in a really good state when we walked away. And we have to take pride in what we did and just move on with it and learn from it. Our kids, unfortunately, our kids have seen it all. And you know, Jacob had the passion to be on a committee and move forward into the Speedway New Zealand, and because he's that way inclined, not now. He's and that is the shame. We've seen it in Invercargill, we've seen it at Cromwell. The good people get pushed out, and the clubs and the members are the ones that suffer. For the small little group of haters over here, they actually destroy it for so many people, and the crowd, the club, the members.
It's like what we said earlier: the minority ruin it for everybody. Yeah, not the majority.
Yeah. But it's everything happens in life for a reason. Everything, it'll all blossom in the end.
Now Ricky's over there telling you to put a positive spin on it. So
I'm not doom and gloom.
Hey Ricky, you've had your interview. Shush. You want to doom and gloom, mate? Let her use her fireplace. Yeah, I mean, I suppose at the end of the day, you're right. Yeah, Ricky's sort of like the front man, and you've sort of kind of had to stay and be quiet. And we were, not even planning to. Well, we were planning to get you on this, but you've waited. You go, I'm not a very good talker, but all you've done is talk, and and some of the stuff that you are saying is very relevant. And it's not about negativity; it's about the truth. Yeah. And there's a difference between putting a positive spin and telling the truth. And that's what you're telling right now is the truth. You've watched it. You've seen what Ricky went on, how he was and all that sort of stuff. And you hurt just because he hurt. Yeah. And you are happy when he's happy. Yeah. And that's what I mean. You've made it stronger. You've made your network, so to speak, stronger. Yeah. But I suppose I'm going to change it completely. Why now do you want a bloody stock car?
Why not?
Okay, I can't answer that.
But
I said it first.
But why not? I've had probably 3 or 4 years of medical issues and what have you, and I've come out at the other side of that, and I'm far better for it. I feel younger. I'm in a financial position to be able to do it, not many mums get to go and race with their daughter and their son.
Yeah.
And
old granddad over there.
And old granddad. He keeps telling me he's going to take the car and go teams racing with the boy, but we'll see about that. Why not? Zach had a good offer going on the car, and I was like, why not? I'll give it a go. Hey, I might do one meeting.
Be warned, those people that have pissed her off. Take money for the hot dog stand. She's coming for you.
I might do one meeting and hate it.
Yeah.
Might go out there and surprise myself and do all right. I took the sprint car for a black at the Beachlands Fun Day. Absolutely loved that. Took Luke's stock car for a black on that same day and absolutely loved that. So my theory is if I want a sprint car, I'm going to have to get good in a stock car first.
I'm not playing the sexist card here, but we're starting to see a lot of ladies racing, and some of them are bloody good.
Yeah.
So you could be the next,
Yeah.
Imagine if you got a 1NZ and he didn't. Wouldn't that would start
I might be in the doghouse.
At least it's heated.
At least it's warm. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like for anybody, like there's lots of people that have been in your guys' position, right?
Yeah.
Like, somebody's doing all the work and getting the piss ripped out of them and all that sort of stuff, and there's always somebody beside them. For anybody that's out there that's got maybe a partner that's a president or husband or whatever, that's a president or a promoter, what advice would you give them? Ricky said to take this into a positive spin. Here's your chance to do that. What advice would you give them to be able to make sure that all's calm, all's well?
Try and just make home their happy place, so that you can take yourself away from it. Like Ricky touched on, the hundreds of emails every day and phone calls and what have you. I used to joke when the phone rang that I'd have to book in, for a catch up with them. But it's just having that neutral ground, being a soundboard. I don't know how many times we've sat at this bench and he'd, tell me some negative stuff, and I'd be like, just listen, be there, try and see the positive in all the negatives, and just be supportive. It's like anything. It's like a bad job. It's like we've all worked for that arsehole boss, it's like anything. And being president of Speedway, I feel for Lani. I feel for the next president and all those that have been and all those that are to come, because if you're doing a good job, you're going to have no friends.
Yeah.
It's quite simple.
Isn't it sad that's the case, though?
I've seen it with him. So many competitors used to ring him on the daily, how can I get around this? How can I do that? How can I do this? And he'd help them. And then they make a board decision at the board table that he may or may not agree with, but it gets passed and they're a board, they're a collective. And then those same people were out bagging him and, he's the worst thing since sliced bread. So, going back to your original question, is just being supportive and being there, trying to be that neutral ground and giving them the courage and enthusiasm to keep going, because a lot of times, there's time away from families. You're sitting at airports, you know what it's like. You're always away, and they did it as a volunteer job. We wouldn't work for a job for $100,000 a year with the shit that they get. And they do it all for voluntary. So, again, if you're doing a good job, you'll have no friends, but just take solace in that you're doing it for the right thing. And it's all those other people, not those 20 haters. It's the other 2,800 competitors that you're doing the right thing for, and they deserve that. That's why you get voted into those positions at club level and at the highest level, is for those other people. Not those, and like you said earlier, I heard you say that it's the minority that have the loudest voice, and yes, it is. And unfortunately, that's our world that we live in this country. But they end up petering away into the distance. They are loud and they do make all the noise
for a time, aren't they? And then
for a time, and then it all gets forgotten about, and they're away the wayside, and that's where they belong. But yeah, it's hard for the like Ricky touched on, the kids, the racing, you turn up to a track and it's, oh, God's here, all that pathetic stuff that affects your family, and the kids are like, oh, I don't even want to go because, all that sort of stuff. But it's for all the people that are happy to see you. and happy for all the
It's not all
good stuff.
negative. It's not
No,
all
it's not.
bad, is it? Like,
It's
I mean,
not.
there's some
It's
good people
really
out there.
not.
Yeah.
And for the 16 years that he was on the board, you know, there's only probably, you know, 20 or 30 things out of all of that was negative.
Yeah.
The rest was awesome. The sport went leaps and bounds.
Isn't
The
it amazing?
relationships that he made with, you know, Zoe and all
Yeah.
his other directors and all the rest of it. You know, they had an awesome team. And it is all, you know, it's 98% positive. It really is.
Isn't it amazing how people only remember you for the bad things
Yep.
and never for the good? And how many good things have been done over his tenure as the president of Speedway, even the board.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the sport, we're probably, people probably don't even understand or know half of what they've done. Let's have a look at the app. You know, like Ricky said, yep, there's a few dollars involved, but no other sport has that app like we've got, you know, and it's got potential to expand and make our sport even better.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the MyLap system. No, we're not putting MyLap's a piece of, now it's, you can't live without
Everyone
it.
swears by it.
You know, and there's all, and that's just a small, you know, keeping the sport going, like we discussed with health and safety and all that sort of stuff. So it just baffles me, which is one of the reasons I wanted to come out here.
Yeah.
It's not because I want the exclusive, it's because I believe that there's, yes, he's a good talker.
Yeah.
You know that. I know that. Jess knows, everybody knows that. He's got a silver tongue.
But he's
the
a hard
passion.
worker too.
It's the passion.
He's the passion and the hard work. And obviously in a personal note, we, you know, you've seen today what we've grown. You know, we moved here from Nelson with the clothes on our back and a truckload of house stuff, you know. We've grown our business to what it is. And
no, it was all gifted to you.
Oh, yeah,
That's what people think. Some fairy comes along and does it all for you.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Pretty good fairy. You know, ask our kids when we first moved to Milton and we started out, we were gone at dark in the morning and we weren't back till dark at night. They were cooking their own tea and sorting their own lunches, you know. You have to put in the mahi to get the results. And you know, we're coming out the other end of it now where we can sit back and go racing a bit more and all the rest of it. But it's the passion, it's the hard work, it's the blood, sweat and the tears and the determination to do better for everybody.
Not take that away from you guys too. Like, it wasn't just Speedway you're putting all your dedication and passion into. No. You also have businesses that you're trying to build. Yeah. And that in itself is, you know, and sometimes you sacrifice possibly what you should be doing for your business for Speedway.
Yes. Most definitely. Time, energy, stress, money was going into Speedway. When we, like you say, we had that business over here. We've got, in our industry, we've got DHBs, we've got red tape galore, we've got families, we've got residents, we've got staff. One bad decision or one knee-jerk reaction in our work life can affect so many people. Yeah. And could be catastrophic. So, you know, it's a seesaw. It's a balancing act to be able to do that. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the arts don't know our personal life and what we do and how much time it took to dedicate to Speedway.
Some people would say that what we've done today, we've gone and had a look at all what you guys have achieved. You know, we had a look at some nice sheds, some nice cars in the shed. Yeah. Some people would say he's just a blow-ass. He's a blowhard. He's just showing off. Yeah. But what it actually is he's proud of what he's achieved, proud of what you guys have achieved. Yeah. And so this is where we get the glass half full, glass half empty, you know, mentality. There'll be people out there that'll think that. It's like me, like a broadcasting business. Yeah. I worked fucking hard for that. There's no two ways about that. And I sacrificed. Yeah. I don't drink booze and I don't smoke anything, any description.
Same as us.
So I just pump all my money into what, because I want it to be bigger and I want it to be proud, our sport to be proud of what we've achieved or my kids or whatever the story may be. So for those people that are out there thinking that all we've done is blow smoke up, Ricky's ass and stuff today, look at what he's achieved. Look at what he's done. Look at what he's sacrificed to achieve what he's achieved. Yeah. It's really what it comes down to, isn't it? Yeah.
And 10 years ago,
like I said, love him or hate him, he's done the job, isn't he?
Yeah, and 10 years ago, we didn't have any of that. Yeah. You know, we just had each other as a family, and we've built what we've got today. And like you say, love him or hate him, his heart's in the right place. And if you're doing a good job, you've got no
Sometimes
friends.
His mouth's not in the same place, though.
No.
I think we're all guilty of that every once in a while, eh? Yeah. I know, well, that's awesome. And I know, I want this on record, you're pretty pissed about your fireplace, aren't you?
I know. Who has a fireplace and isn't allowed firewood in the country? Could be a snowstorm tomorrow and I'll be freezing.
and you have no power,
Yeah.
and you'll have to entertain each other, which
Yeah.
clearly you're not used to. Because
Hey,
you've got all this time.
We'll have Speedway to talk about, Jace.
Maybe not as much as you used to. You
No.
certainly got some toys out there to go and play with anyway, so
Yeah.
it's not so bad.
Yeah.
But hey, Angie, thank you very much for
Hey, no
jumping
worries.
on. And I know you were a bit reluctant to do so because obviously, once again, you put yourself in front of a camera. There's always going to be someone out there that's going to completely take it all wrong, and it's just, All right, so over the course of today, we've talked about all the successes, but not so much the fails, Ricky, and I'm sure you've had a few of them. Is there anything that in the years that you've been associated with Speedway that you think you failed at?
Yeah, there's one, and that's compulsory head and neck restraints in stock cars and super stocks. It's always been a passion, and I make no secret of it. Probably me and Tim Saville are the two. In my time since 2000.
So let's get this so people understand this. So you said neck and head restraints. So referring to
the head neck restraint device.
Okay, so Hans device?
Hans device or the, what are they called? Hans device or the Gen 2 Simpson hybrid. Just some sort of head and neck restraint. So, and I speak of it from a personal point of view more than anything as a director and as a president. But I presented at the conference a couple of times and got shot to bits by a couple of people in the room that used finances to spearhead the vote against head and neck restraint. And I sat through, personally as a board member, I sat through 4 fatalities, where the coroner clearly stated that if a head and neck restraint had been used, the competitor will probably, they can't use definites, probably wouldn't have been killed.
Mm-hmm.
And those reports even went as far as saying what sort they should have been using and all that sort of thing. And I was the typical old superstock driver that typical Kiwi, I'm 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and I'm a ex-country farm boy and I don't need help or assistance and I can hit like a steam train and not get hurt. And there's still a few of those still in superstocks and stock cars. And some of them I'm mates with. And I tell them they're idiots daily.
Yeah.
And I never wore a head and neck restraint. And yes, they were expensive especially when they first came about. And then I was on the board through the era. Sorry, no, I wasn't. I was promoting when Dale Earnhardt got killed.
Mm-hmm.
And NASCAR introduced head and neck restraints in 4 days. 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
And it was across every single faction of their sport. So as you know, NASCAR isn't just what you see on TV, but they have all those other categories. And they did it instantly. Formula One did it instantly. V8 Supercars did it instantly. And we had 4 fatalities that clearly told us this is what we should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And back in those days, the rules were made by the competitors and conference. And it's probably the one thing we never got across the line in my tenure, and it's the one thing that I'm glad to see that parents themselves have identified that their kids need to be in head and neck restraints. So they have trained that generation to race with head and neck restraints. And the old tired dinosaurs that constantly won't listen to advice are going to eventually retire and leave the sport.
Because currently there's no requirement, is there? You can choose either a neck restraint or you can go to whatever device.
You can have a fluffy toy around your neck if you want. And stock cars, super stocks, and street stocks. And
does a Hans device, does it stop side to side movement?
No, your seat does that.
Yeah.
So head and neck restraint just stops the head flying off. So so from a personal point of view, I never wore one, right? And then I sat through one particular coroner's hearing that probably affected me the most. And I know it affected the other board members because it was of a young lady that got killed in a mini stock. And when we sat through that, we had to go through everything, every aspect of the coroner's report, and we were touching the head and neck restraint, and the helmet was on the table in front of us, and the belts, and the state that they were in, and all that sort of stuff. It was pretty unpleasant, and that sort of changed my mind a little bit. And at the same time, my kids were just starting into mini stocks, so there was no way in hell that my kids were going to go and strap themselves into a steel car and hurl themselves around a concrete wall with the ability that they couldn't drive. Let's be honest, 12-year-olds think they're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And the report even went as far as talking about the development of girls' bones compared to boys' bones and how much slower they were. They were a year behind. So for me, it was a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get kids, first of all, and what's the best way to get stock car drivers wearing head and neck restraints is get their older brother super stocks wearing head and neck restraints. Because if you see the Malcolm Nardis and the Wayne Hemmys and the Scotty Myerses of the world wearing a head and neck restraint, then the young up-and-coming kids that are going to stock cars
Becomes the norm too.
Becomes the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with the mini stocks. And so I started wearing one. And I was a driver that used to loosen my belts off when I was going teams racing in the super stock, so I could see who was coming because I wasn't trained on using mirrors properly. And to the point where I remember races got stopped and referees were sending track guys over to check my belts because it had fallen off my shoulder or something, you know, because that was the dumb mentality we had as drivers. So I started using a head and neck restraint, and we had a teams race against the Panthers in Nelson. I was in the Tigers. And I'd been blocking, and we won the teams race, but I'd taken some pretty big hits. But I was fine, and I'm in some good. Those boys knew how to hit back in those days. And we went in for the all-in race afterwards, and I'd had a gearbox issue, so I'd just been chosen to represent the Tigers the next week against return to the Panthers. And I said to my crew, I'll just give the car a quick run. Don't know what happened. We hit a wet patch and just went backwards, full off backwards. And I broke 3 vertebrae right below my head and neck restraint, where my head and neck restraint was. So you go to hospital, you deal with all that side of it. And I went home and I was in the shed probably a couple of weeks later looking at the car, and I had this head and neck restraint on, and I sat in the seat, and I thought it was the head and neck restraint. I felt it was the head and neck restraint that caused the issue. And I had a specialist appointment, and Angie-lee and Jasmine came to the specialist appointment, and I walked in, walked in, I threw the head and neck restraint on the table. And I said, that bloody thing there's what broke my 3 vertebrae in my back. And he says, how do you feel that? And I said, because right where that ended, I broke the 3 vertebrae below that. And he says, have a seat, Mr. Boulton. And he says, I'll explain to you actually what happened. And I said, right. And he's a specialist. He said, so your head weighs about 13 kgs. And when you went backwards into the wall, you went into the seat, and then it's called what we call recoil. So you go back the other way twice as fast.
Yep.
Almost worse than going into the wall head first. And he said, and your dumb head, that's how he said it to me, tried to exit out through the front windscreen. And your head and neck restraint did its job and hung on to your dumb head and kept it on your shoulders. And he said, but all that energy had to go somewhere. So it went down through your head and neck restraint. Instead of snapping your neck at the base of your skull and probably killing you instantly, it transferred all that energy down through the head and neck restraint, and it found its next weakest link, which was my C2, 3, or whatever it is. The numbers, T or C, I can't remember T's.
Yeah.
And he said that's what caused those 3 to break. He said if you weren't wearing that head and neck restraint, you wouldn't be standing in my office, and your wife would be a widow, and your daughter wouldn't have a dad. So would you like to carry on with this statement? So I personally lived through what a head and neck restraint did for me, and I listened to the consequences if I wasn't wearing it. And so when I went to conference a few times and I put it forward as a director, because I was a director of Superstocks at the time, and I felt that Superstocks were the one grade that could afford it because they were about $600-700. And to see delegates talking about cost over safety, yet we'd had these fatalities in the sport, was really disappointing. And still to this day, it was murmured that we could have used the safety rule as a board, but we felt that it was a decision the whole sport needed to make, and we felt that it was a sport that, the decision that the drivers themselves had to make.
Yep.
And it's really good to see now. I go to Speedway and I wander through the stock car, super stock area, and 99% of the drivers have head and neck restraints on. So they've actually made the decision themselves without the governing body. But really, should they have had to? You can't race an open wheeler without a head and neck restraint in our sport. What cracked me up with that argument at that conference that year was the rule got put forward, my rule got put forward that head and neck restraints become compulsory in super stocks. delegates stood up and argued about there's no evidence they save lives. Well, I'm sorry. V8 supercars say they save lives. NASCAR say they save lives. Formula One say they save lives. Every other form of motorsport says they save lives, bar Speedway. The one sport where we hurl ourselves at concrete walls and steal cars. Right?
I put it to you that if it had been somebody else that had put that forward, it probably would have got through.
And that could have been. And that's even more disappointing if they put it down to personalities.
Well, they do. The sport's all about that.
But then they said it was about cost. And part of the argument was around it'll cost too much and guys won't be able to afford to go racing because they'll have to buy a head and neck restraint. So it was put to the vote and it lost by 2 votes. It wasn't very much.
Mm-hmm.
So we go out for Smoko and we come back in for Smoko. And the very next remit was to make head and neck restraints compulsory in all open wheel grades.
And it passed.
So we put it to every 100%. There wasn't one person voted against it. I'm sitting there going, hang on, why didn't somebody ask the question, where's your evidence they save lives? Because that was your biggest argument 10 minutes ago, but you just threw it out. So if there's one thing that still irks me, and if I ever see a fatality or a serious injury due to the lack of a head and neck restraint, I'm just going to be quite disheartened because we had our opportunity as a sport. We've had it probably more than once to get it through as something to save lives because and there has been injuries, serious injuries and a fatality of competitors wearing head and neck restraints. But I said earlier that you never know when you've saved a life like we did with the fences. You only ever know when you've failed. And my argument is we could have saved, with all those kids and those people with brains that are now wearing head and neck restraints, myself included, and my kids that now wear them, we don't know how many of them were saved.
Yeah.
We just don't.
We just know the ones we didn't.
We just know the ones we didn't. And I don't think that that's a good enough argument to stop them being compulsory. So if there's one thing I want to see the sport do pretty quickly, and that's to make head and neck restraints compulsory in those 3 contact grades. I call them 3 contact grades, and then probably the youth grade. So street stocks, stock cars, super stocks, and then the youth mini stocks. Not so much the saloon grades don't need them because the cars fold up.
Yeah.
They're soft. A lot of them wear them, still wear them. Like I wear them in the super saloon, only because speed.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't, well, you can't race a sprint car with that one. But that's my personal choice. I don't need to. But I think that's one thing that needs to do. So there you are. There's one failing. Not all cherries there, Jason.
Yeah.
Not all cherries.
Right.
So thank you, sir.